Good morning, Black Power.
Black Power.
So we're gonna give it a few moments. We just glowing, melanin popping. Black Power comrade Valencia, what's the tea, girl? How you doing? If you come in, please share. Comment hashtag shared when you shared it. Black Power Aaliyah, Black Power Kimya, Black Power Christopher, Black Power Kimya. What's up, y'all? Let's get it poppin'. It's Sunday. You know what time it is. Oh man, y'all doing okay today? Everybody doing fine? You feeling your blackest today? You know, every day I wake up, every new day I wake up, I feel blacker than what I did the previous day, you know?
It's a beautiful thing.
Valencia says, Black Power comrades, the melanin is popping. Yes, girl, you see that? We're so cute. But y'all please share. Let's get these views up. Let's share this on our timelines and your Facebook groups, all of that good stuff. Let's get our people exposed to this political education. We done with Assata, y'all.
We're done.
It's the end. Black Power, Sai. Did I pronounce that right? I'm sorry if I didn't. Just let me know. Let me post the donation links for you guys real quick. Hold on, give me one moment. Oh, that's not it. Comment hashtag shared when you shared it. Okay. Bam. Then what I'm gonna do is pin this like, oh, hold on, wait.
Like so?
Right? Come on. Close enough? Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Valencia. Black Power, Stephanie. All right, y'all. So welcome to the Revolutionary Book Club presented by Black Camera with your boy, Chief Dia. And Chief Nyah, she's back with us this Sunday, y'all. So, yeah, we're on the last few chapters of Assata, an autobiography. The past few weeks of us doing this book have just been so transformative. Mm-hmm. You know, in my case, you know, just in terms of, you know, seeing the sacrifices and everything that Comrade Assata had to go through. And, you know, just knowing that as a revolutionary, Comrade Assata's story is not unique. It's not really unique. And it's a lot of, you know, untold history, you know, from other comrades, other revolutionaries who have immersed themselves in the struggle, who didn't have a chance, you know, to really speak to everything that they went through. But, you know, this book, you know, represents that for all of us, for all of these revolutionaries who didn't have a chance to really share their story, you know, in terms of, you know, fighting the struggle. So just a big salute to Comrade Assata. We love you, Comrade Assata. It was just a really great read.
Yeah, I'm really sad to be coming to the end of it as well. And, I mean, I don't think there's a definite number of times I could read this and not see something new or something that's revelatory that I didn't see the first time through. And so, yeah, I mean, she's a very sacrificing, selfless individual, and just sharing what she endured. And I mean the price, just what we're gonna go through today.
Oh man,
you know, I just learned infinitely from her.
It was deep.
Yeah.
Y'all see all my doggy-eared pages in here? But anyway, so just if you didn't know, the Revolutionary Book Club does serve as a fundraiser and also a member drive for the Black Hammer organization. So we just want to ask that you please visit the links that we have pinned here in the comments. You can donate to support the organization. You can go to GoFundMe.com/BlackHammerOrg, or you can donate through CashApp at BHBookclub to help keep the book club going, to help keep Black Hammer going as an organization. We need the support of the people, and we don't want the support from anybody else. We want the support of the people. Because when you support these types of institutions, when you support these types of organizations, you have a direct stake in, the liberation of yourself, of your people. So when you invest in Black Hammer, you're investing in your freedom. When you invest in the book club, you're investing in political education to be provided to the masses, so that way we can come on here and we can grapple with these questions of revolution, what it's going to take for us to get there, and we can read about the experiences of revolutionaries who have been on this journey, who know what the hell they are talking about, and it just provides us with a roadmap, us revolutionaries of the day. So it just makes it so much closer, makes us so much closer to our goal of absolute freedom. So please go to GoFundMe.com/BlackHammerOrg. Damn, comrade.
BH Book Club.
Yeah, through Cash App and BlackHammer.org. You can donate through there as well. So Black Power. You want to go into the announcements now?
I can. Excuse me. The Black Hammer organization is going to be at the Atlanta Pride, the Atlanta Black Pride. Let me make that discernment. Black Pride. This month, we are going to be there the 30th, August the 30th through September the 1st. We will be at the Greek Brunch at 11 a.m. at the Georgia Tech Hotel Conference Center at 800 Spring Street, Northwest Atlanta, 30308. We'll be speaking approximately 15 minutes. We're trying to work out the logistics around that. We're also going to be giving a workshop on the 31st. It's at 3 p.m. And that's going to be at the Georgia Tech Hotel and Conference Center. And that's also at the 800 Spring Street, Northwest Atlanta, Georgia, 30308. The workshop will be for approximately an hour, so we hope to see you there. And then we will also be at the Atlanta Pride celebration on the 1st of September. We don't have the time yet, but that will be at Candler Park, and we will be performing. Dia will be singing, so you should come out to see that, and we're also going to be speaking at that engagement. So come out, support us. We're looking forward to it. We're going to be doing outreach, passing out flyers, all of that good stuff. Comrade Kimya says, I want to go. Comrade, we can get you here. Come on, don't play. We can get you here. And I also just want to say, I can't, give too much, but y'all pay attention to the Black Hammer social media. This coming up Friday is going to be a big announcement. So y'all just make sure you keep your eyes open, okay? So, Sia says, which was it best to donate? By that, I mean, which option takes the smallest non-percentage of donations? Cash App would be the best place to donate, and again, that's BH Book Club, so you can donate through there. All right, y'all, so we're going to go ahead and get started, but I just really want to say, y'all, please share this video. Let's get these views up. Let's get some more people on this live so we can have this great discussion, okay? So, the last few chapters of the book, we have 19 through 21, and then we go into the post, the post strip, with Comrade Assata. So, all right, so chapter 19 brings us to
the maximum security prison for women. This is directly after, Comrade Assata got off the trial, got out of the trial for the New Jersey Turnpike or whatever. So this is where she was supposed to, basically, this is where the state wanted her to die. Basically, in this maximum security prison for Alderson. So, so she discusses the being transferred there, and they say that, they describe this prison as being a maximum security prison for the most dangerous women in the world, where you have Comrade Assata, who is not even a felon. And even up to this point, her being transferred to Alderson, all of this shit that we talked about, she talks about through the book about all of these bullshit charges that she had, she wasn't charged on none of those things. None of those things. Even the damn, the New Jersey Turnpike, when she was convicted, we knew, that conviction holds no weight. But here it is, they have her in this damn maximum security prison. So
it's known as the most brutal concentration camp in the country.
Hell yeah.
Just to give you some context.
And she was just describing the whole landscape, how she speaks about how they have this barbed wire surrounding the prison that was outlawed during the Geneva Convention.
It says it was a prison within a prison. This place had stillness to it, like it was some kind of bizarre death row. It was the way it was described. It's like what life form would survive there.
She says it was surrounded by an electronic fence. First you got the goddamn electronic fence now, y'all. Then it's topped with barbed wire.
Just in case you get past the electronic fence.
So after your ass get fried up a couple of times, so then after the electronic fence, you have the barbed wire, which in turn was covered by concertina wire, which is a razor sharp wire a razor sharp type of wire that have been outlawed by the Geneva Convention.
So basically what they're saying is if you even attempt to try to get out of there, when they give your body back to your loved ones, you'll be unrecognizable.
Exactly.
Because of the shit that's going to happen to you.
Exactly. And I don't even know if it's me, but sometimes, and this might be kind of weird, but it's okay. But sometimes when I'm riding by, if I see a barbed wire fence, automatically in my mind I'm just thinking, how the fuck can I cross this fence? Can I throw a blanket over the barbed wire, or take off my shirt and just lay it over the barbed wire? I don't know. I just have those thoughts. Maybe. I'm not gonna say that, but just if we gotta escape from prison one time, we got to know what to do. So we got to be prepared. So, she talks about that. And then she talks about the three groups that make up the prison population, the people who are there. So she says it's the Nazis, the nigga lovers, and me. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's, just badass revolutionary shit to classify yourself as your own motherfucking group within the prison. So that means... these crackers, these racist ass hunkies knew not to fuck with Comrade Assata, and she even says that in the chapter as well too.
Right. And I want to say somewhere they said that there was one other black person there, but that person had been transferred out. Mm-hmm. But Assata held her own. Yeah. While she was there.
And she, like you just said, she was pretty much the only African woman there in the prison. Mm-hmm. And she speaks about this white woman who was called a nigga lover. And so basically, her name was Rita Brown, and Comrade Assata, describes her as being a white revolutionary. And she says how this woman, is a feminist and a lesbian, and for some reason I just get the feeling that even understanding what feminism is now today, I feel like around this time it wasn't as, you know, opportunistic, and removed as it is, you know, today. And, you know, knowing Comrade Assata and just understanding what a feminist is today, I don't think she could have even sat down with this woman. But, you know, that just goes to show you, you know, how, you know, white power, how white imperialism can just, you know, violate anything or whatever. So yeah, and
excuse me, just to kind of contribute something around that, you have women's liberation, and we know that colonialism also creates the hierarchy between men and women in this country and pretty much worldwide. Then you have you know, feminism today, like Comrade Dia was just saying, where the goal is just to get as close to what you can get out of colonialism to the white man as you can possibly get. So white women essentially today, if you can get the same, you know, 75 cents to every white man's dollar, if you can get that same dollar, then, you know, fuck every black woman, black man that doesn't get that, you know, now. You know, they've historically thrown us under the bus, and they'll continue to do that. And so, you know, as far as that's concerned, I think, you know, like you were saying, it wasn't as far removed or as opportunistic. You know, there may have been an innocence there at that time, but I do question whether she would feel the same way knowing what we know now about that movement.
And then just to also say, you know, like feminism, women's liberation, you know, these these worker unions and all of this other type of shit like that. All of those things, you know, like all of those different movements that we've seen, you know, basically led by the white working class, you know, like stay-at-home moms coming out of the kitchen and all that other type of bullshit, you know, white LGBT queer people, you know, and their struggle, well, their so-called struggles and all that other type of shit like that. All of that, you know, would not exist without the struggle of African and colonized people.
Absolutely.
You know, for every single motherfucking struggle that you could ever think of or picture in your goddamn mind has been inspired by the struggles of black and colonized people. And you know what's so, I mean, it's not even crazy, because just understanding how colonialism and you know, white imperialism works, you know,
it's always at the stake of black and brown people.
It starts there, because the oppression starts within, you know, the black community. It starts within the colonized communities.
Right.
We have Comrade Kimya, says, they co-opt and corrupt everything we start. Feminism was ours first.
Black power.
Black power. So, yeah, so did you want to, I see you had something highlighted. Did you want to?
Yeah, I can, it says here, Rita did not separate the oppression of women from the racism and classism of U.S. society. We agreed that sexism, like racism, was generated by capitalist, imperialist governments, and that women would never be liberated as long as the institution that controlled our lives existed. And so I highlighted that because she did recognize that she's not wanting to kind of look at the extra oppression that a black or colonized person would go through. Yeah. She recognized that, but they could agree on things like the fact that women will constantly be under the oppression of, you know, colonialism in this country or wherever colonialism exists. I can see, and I guess that made me think about working with other groups of people, you know, for a common cause or a common goal. I guess something I struggle with is, you know, I don't want to compromise, you know, my oppression or the oppression of my people simply because I want to make others comfortable or stop at a certain level. Like we've gotten the oppression for women out of the way. Now we're good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So another big component of this chapter is Comrade Assata not reuniting, but her meeting Lolita LeBron, who we come to understand. Well, first I just want to say that until reading this book, I didn't know who Lolita LeBron was. But you know, as Comrade Assata describes her in this book, she is an indigenous woman from Puerto Rico or whatever. Well, not whatever, but and she was a revolutionary who really, you know, struggled for the independence of Puerto Rico. And to me, which was so great and powerful, is this portion when she speaks about how they meet in the prison.
Yes.
So she's like, one day as I was returning to Davis Hall, a middle-aged woman with salt and pepper hair caught my eye. She had a dignified school teacher look. Something drew me towards her. As I searched her face, I could see that she was also searching mine. Our eyes locked in a questioning gaze. "Lolita?" I ventured. "Assata?" she responded. And there, in the middle of those Alderson prison grounds, we hugged and kissed each other. That was very powerful, you know, for me. And you know, just that union there in itself, you know, just just speaks to how important it is. Not only how important it is, but just the sameness. Yeah. You know, Black and colonized people share all around this world with all, you know, just all of these different, you know, proletariats. Like, you know, just understanding that we all have this stake in overturning, you know, colonialism, overturning white imperialism. And for these two sisters to recognize each other like that was just very, you know, that was very great for me. Yeah.
Especially in an environment like what they were in, and to be in the company of somebody else who is essentially fighting the same battle you're fighting.
Yeah. So, let's get into our hashtag read that back parts. I just want to say, y'all, please, if you haven't shared this video, share. Let's get these views up. So my hashtag read that back part comes on page 256. And, you know, it's when Comrade Assata is speaking about, you know, like religion and liberation theology. And she, you know, she speaks more about, you know, Lolita. Oh yeah, Black Power, comrade. Rest in power to Lolita LeBron. She has passed. But Black Power, rest in power, sister. But you know, she speaks about how religious Lolita was, you know, and how Lolita was visited by these how does she describe them? She calls them pseudo-revolutionary robots, you know, who came to visit Lolita and came to visit Lolita. You like that, Comrade Robert? You know, we in a different location today. But you know, and she speaks about how Lolita, you know, was so religious and how she felt like religion, you know, played a major part in how Lolita was able to continue the struggle for liberation, you know, to continue to fight. So I was before finding, you know, revolution, before, you know, getting involved in the struggle, I was very, 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 very religious.
Me too.
And, you know, I could say without a shadow of a doubt, I'm not religious anymore. And if there's anything that I believe in Black people. I believe in colonized people. I believe in our will to unite and struggle to overturn this shit, to overturn white power, to overturn colonialism. That's my faith. That's my hallelujah, amen. Thank the ancestors. The people. So she says, my hashtag read that back part is where she says, I had to become close friends with a Catholic nun, Mary Alice, while at Alderson, who introduced me to liberation theology. I had read some articles by Camilo Torres, the revolutionary priest, and I knew that there were a lot of revolutionary priests and nuns in Latin America. But I didn't know too much about liberation theology. What it says. Okay, I did know that Jesus had driven the money changers out of the temples and said that the meek would inherit the earth, and a lot of other things that were directly opposed to capitalism. He had told the rich to give away their wealth and said, that it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. I knew a little bit, but I had too much respect for Lolita to open my mouth carelessly. I decided to study liberation theology so that I could have an intelligent conversation with her. Now, this was my hashtag read that back part. And I'm not to say that, you know, you can't be revolutionary and be religious, because obviously, you know, Lolita, you know, was this monumental person who played a major part in, you know, the struggle for independence in Puerto Rico. And, you know, like Comrade Assata says, you know, for some people, that can be a type of reassurance, you know, for you as you grapple with, you know, revolution, your place in it, and, you know, just struggling to be better cadre or whatever. But, you know, for me, as I've come this far in, you know, just becoming more political and things of that nature, I can't put my faith in anything else other than, you know, the materialistic components that I know will guarantee the liberation of African and colonized people. And, you know, just as Comrade Assata is saying, you know, Jesus had these anti-capitalist, you know, ideas. So, I mean, absolutely, for you to look up at him, you know, as your type of inspiration, that's fine. And that if that works for you, if that's going to make you be the cadre that you need to be, I'm all for it.
Marcus Garvey.
One of the greatest revolutionary men to ever walk this earth. So, yeah. Dang, it was something else that I wanted to say, but I lost my train of thought. But go ahead.
Well, that was my read that back too. Mm-hmm. And as somebody who used to follow the Christian faith, mm-hmm, that was something that I never did understand. But now I'm just like, how you follow a man who was anti-capitalist, and here you are supporting a system that is very much capitalist, mm-hmm, and it's just contradictory. Yeah. And so that, I mentioned Marcus Garvey, some of the greatest revolutions that we talk about today. I mean, Malcolm X was somebody who was, you know, a spiritual or religious person, but he said to leave your religion in the closet, mm-hmm, because we have essentially, I'm summing up what he said, but you have what you need to do here, right, and that shouldn't really affect what you're doing here to, mm-hmm, to achieve revolution. So that really has nothing to do, whatever you believe. I feel like you can believe whatever the hell you want to believe, mm-hmm, but that does not exonerate you from your responsibility.
Right. Oh, this is what else I wanted to say. You know, I don't think the way capitalism, the way white imperialism is set up, I don't think we'll ever know the true origins of, you know, how Christianity, the true origins of how Christianity came to be. But just what we know now is how corrupted capitalism has made it. And just even, you know, how Christianity was used, how it was weaponized against African people, mm-hmm, and colonized people to enslave us. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that just really just was like, nah, fuck this bullshit. And just how, you know, how capitalism, you know, even back as far as like when, you know, white people was living under feudalism, just to give you an idea how profuse capitalism has made Christianity. If you were living, you know, in feudal Europe, mm-hmm, and one of your relatives died, and you weren't sure if your relative was going to make it into heaven or not, you could pay the priest, you could pay the church to get your dead relative into heaven.
Sounds like a means of control to me.
You could pay the church to get your relative, your deceased relative, into heaven. Comrade. Comrade. So, yeah, that was our hashtag read that back part. Let's see what we have in the comments. Let's see. We have Comrade Christopher who says, come on. Okay. Hashtag read that back. Religion and socialism were two opposing forces. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Let's see what else we have. Okay, so I think that's our only hashtag read that back part for chapter 19. If that is the case, we're going to go ahead and move it on. Comrade Valencia says, I just can't do religion. I left Christianity years ago and haven't looked back. Hallelujah, girl. Praise white baby Jesus.
You know, it's just, and I guess when you look at the system we live in today, mm-hmm. and how Christianity is even used to justify your deaths, mm-hmm. or to justify that, you know, we civilized you all, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. and mm-hmm. never mind the means that we used to do it, mm-hmm. which was savage as fuck. Mm-hmm. The conditions that they forced you and your ancestors to live in, but just the fact that we use this guy who really denounces all the things that we did to subjugate you, but we use it's just so contradictory. And I think anybody that really sits down to look at that, anybody who really follows the Christian faith would truly be a revolutionary. Right. I mean, they really would. I mean, if you look at the Jesus part, I can't go back to the Old Testament and you know, but yeah, I just really think that anybody that was or that truly is and that really would follow those teachings would actually be a revolutionary.
And just real quick, before we move on, I just wanted to say, you know, like, ultimately, when you really think about it, when you boil it down to the bolts and, you know, the screws and all that other type of bullshit, Christianity would have you believe that it was actually God's plan for white Europeans to go into Africa, enslave us, to bring us here to America. That was God's plan.
Really? But there are people who believe that.
And I mean, when you really think about it, that's the only conclusion, well, in my mind, that you can ultimately come to. So it was God's plan for over more than 2 million African bodies to this day to be at the bottom of the ocean right now. Mm-hmm. That was his plan.
Or their body parts to be dismembered or hanging from fucking trees.
That was his
in front
plan.
Of their families while people eat food and I mean, yeah, that's his fucking plan. I don't want to serve an evil ass God like that. I mean, personally.
But anyway,
okay.
We digress. We digress. Please donate, support Black Hammer, support the Revolutionary Book Club. Go to GoFundMe.com/BlackHammer or donate through CashApp BHBookclub or donate through BlackHammer.org. You can, it has the little tabs or whatever to show you what to do or whatever. So, yeah, moving on. Chapter 20.
So chapter 20, y'all, was very heavy. This is I'm gonna read it because it's very short, and
just to let y'all know, this is both this entire chapter was our hashtag read that back.
Yeah.
So
but this is where Assata's baby is brought to visit her at the prison. Yeah. So anyway, let me just start reading it and then we'll sum it up afterwards. So. And this is on page 257. My mother brings my daughter to see me at the Clinton Correctional Facility for Women in New Jersey, where I had been sent from Alderson. I am delirious. She looks so tall. I run up to kiss her. She barely responds. She's distant and standoffish. Pangs of guilt and sorrow fill my chest. I can see that my child is suffering. It's stupid to ask what's wrong. She's 4 years old, and except for these pitiful little visits, although my mother has brought her to see me every week Wherever I am, with the exception of the time I was in Alderson, she has never been with her mother. I can feel something welling up in my baby. I look at my mother, my face a question mark. My mother is suffering too. I try to play. I make my arms into an elephant's trunk, stalking around the visiting room jungle. It does not work. My daughter refuses to play baby elephant or tiger or anything. She looks at me like I'm a buffoon that I must look like. I try the choo-choo train routine and the la 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 song, but she's not amused. I try talking to her, but she's puffed up and sullen. I go over and try to hug her. In a hot second, she's all over me. All I can feel are these little 4-year-old fists banging away at me. Every bit of her force is in those punches. They really hurt. I let her hit me until she's tired. It's all right, I tell her. Let it all out. She is standing in front of me, her face contorted with anger, looking spent. She backs away and leans against the wall. It's okay, I tell her. Mommy understands. You're not my mother, she screams, tears rolling down her face. You're not my mother and I hate you. I feel like crying too. I know she's confused about who I am. She calls me Mommy Assata and she calls my mother Mommy. I try to pick her up. She knocks my hand away. You can get out of here if you want to, she screams. You just don't want to. No, I can't, I say weakly. Yes, you can, she accuses. You just don't want to. I look helplessly at my mother, her face choked with pain. Tell her to try to open the bar, she says in a whisper. I can't open the door, I tell my daughter. I can't get through the bars. You try to open the bars. My daughter goes over to the bar door and leads to the visiting room. She pulls and pushes, she yanks, she hits, and she kicks the bars until she falls on the floor, a heap of exhaustion. I go over and pick her up. I hold and rock her and kiss her. There is a look of resignation on her face that I can't stand. We spend the rest of the visit talking and playing quietly on the floor. When the guard says the visit is over, I cling to her for dear life. She holds her head high and her back straight as she walks out of the prison. She waves goodbye to me, and her face clouded and worried, looking like a little adult. I go back to my cage and I cry until I vomit. I decide that it's time to leave.
I think you should read the poem.
Yeah. And this is the poem to my daughter, Kakuya. I have shabby dreams for you of some vague freedom, and I have never known. Baby, I don't want you hungry or thirsty or out in the cold. And I don't want the frost to kill your fruit before it ripens. I can see a sunny place, life exploding green. I can see your bright bronze skin at ease with all the flowers and the centipedes. I can hear laughter, not grown from ridicule, and words not prompted by ego or greed or jealousy. I see a world where hatred has been replaced by love, and me replaced by we. And I can see a world where you, building and exploring strong and fulfilled, will understand and go beyond my shabby dreams.
Black power.
That was heavy.
Whew.
So,
Before you start, some of you may not know, but Comrade Nyah is a mother. And I just wanted to ask, like, how did you feel reading chapter 20?
yeah, I choked up because, like when she was describing the responses of her child, you know, of course, first thing that you ever do as a mother is anytime somebody, your pain really goes out to, your heart goes out to any other mother who's suffering, who's lost a child or the child is suffering in some way. So the first thing you do is you look at your child in that same situation and you're responding to how you would be in that situation with your child. And so being separated from her child pretty much her whole life, it was very difficult for me to not picture that, you know, and get emotional. I mean, at the very least, but, you know, some of it's just really hard to articulate, but just I saw my child and being separated, and that child really believing, and they internalize that. They take all those things personal, and that you're not here because you don't want to be here with me. When the sole reason why she is there is really because of her, because we go to make this world a better place so that our children can inherit a better planet, a better earth.
Right. Yeah. I don't, I don't have children of my own, but, just, you could feel the pain just coming off of the pages. And what was hard for me to struggle with, while reading chapter 13 was just, for little Kikuya to, think that it was Comrade Assata's choice to be, in this predicament. And in no means am I, blaming, little Kikuya for feeling the way she does, because as Comrade Nyah says, as a child, that is how you are internalizing it. That is how you are internalizing it. And just, imagining the guilt that Comrade Assata, was feeling at this moment, because she didn't have enough time to lay out, the past 600 years of history of what has brought her to this instance right now, to this day, and how her trying to explain to her child that she's in this prison for absolutely no reason other than wanting for her child, Kikuya, to have a life of freedom, a life of dignity. How can you explain that to a 4-year-old child? And I heard something the other day, and I've just been thinking about it, for some time. And somebody said, I can't remember where I heard it, if it was on the radio or somewhere, but it said that, you can't, this generation, we can't raise our children how we were raised, because the world that we live in now is not the same world that we were raised in. So my point being is that we have to politicize our children. We have to politicize our children so they are able to have an understanding of what is happening, of what it is that we're facing, so not just we have to equip our children with the knowledge to know how to struggle in this world. And I mean, it's not even just to equip them with the knowledge, because we don't even want to have these types of discussions with our children.
Right.
We don't want to have a discussion about what imperialism is, what colonialism is. We want to have conversations about what imperialism was, what colonialism was,
and what we did to destroy it.
Exactly. So we have to educate our children about revolution. We have to educate our children about revolutionary struggle. Mm-hmm. That is what we must do. Mm-hmm. And I mean, even equipping them with the knowledge to struggle, not only that, but to give them an understanding of, what it is when you see this internal hatred that is exemplified by our people, how they can struggle with that, how they can struggle with building their own self-esteem within a society that tells them that they ain't shit, even before they're born. That is what we have to do for our children.
Yeah, and it's a constant breakdown, because if your children are going to be in public school, they are going to be taught these things that you have to go back and undo. It's a lot of things you have to try to pack into a 4 and 5 or a 3-year-old. You cannot start too early trying to teach your children about indoctrination. And Friday night, there was a commercial that came on where the Pledge of Allegiance was being recited. And my son, because I'd asked him, I said, did they say the Pledge of Allegiance at your school? And he said no. I said, so when this came on, he said, they do say that. I said, okay, what do you do? And he says, well, I don't say it. I said, okay, good.
Right on, right on.
I said, good. And I said, and why don't you say it? He said, because that's not my pledge and that's not my flag. I said, what's your flag? And he said, it's the African flag, and it's red, black, and green. And so you will have a job that is going to where you constantly have to pull down these things that they're going to learn, because they're going to learn it. There's no way to get around it. And the world is going to tell them that, you know, your mom or your dad or your grandmother or your aunt is in jail because they did what they weren't supposed to do. So, you know, Kikuya was being told that her, you know, I'm sure that her, you know, not by her family, but by anybody else, that, you know, if your mom had just not done these things, she wouldn't be there.
Right.
But the struggle for freedom is going to require these things. And all of our revolutionaries, our great revolutionaries, have been imprisoned and locked up. And we just have to remember that if we continue to just teach our kids that go to school, get a college degree, you know, do what you're supposed to do, stay out of trouble, and that's it. And you basically are just raising another robot, somebody who's going to continue to carry on and uphold the same system that continues to oppress you. You teach your child to be a revolutionary and to challenge injustice, then you are raising a revolutionary, and you're raising somebody who's going to think for themselves independently and for the betterment of their people. And I would choose that any day. Do I want my child to grow up to want to be the president of this rogue country? Hell the fuck no. And I told him why. He understands why. He understands why we don't celebrate the 4th.
Right.
So we have to do that for our children, and it is going to come with some pain when they don't understand, because they're not going to understand everything at 4 years old. Which you help them understand that, and you extend that in love and in truth.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Black Power. So let's read some of these comments real quick. Girl, because you just preached. You just gave a whole sermon, child. Hold on, y'all. This thing is acting stupid.
Oh no.
Okay, so we have Agbe Rabe, Black Power, who says, you have to be ignorant to not have researched and find out that these books have been a lie since even before they enslaved your minds. I believe that it's going back to Christianity when we were speaking about that earlier. Black Power Daniel.
Black Power Daniel.
Comrade Christopher says, hashtag read that back. I see a world where hatred has been replaced by love and me replaced by we. Yes, page 267 reminds me of taking my nephew to visit his father in a Fed's pen. Black Power. Comrade Daniel says, being separated from your parents in the community makes you feel neglected. It's painful and tragic. We have to raise them to be stronger than us to carry on the work on the revolution. Black Power, Comrade Daniel. Black Power China. China says, oh, look at y'all, I'm so proud.
Black Power China.
Black Power. We have Comrade Kimya, who says, as a mom, this chapter was emotionally charged. We have to fight for freedom. Hashtag read that back. And I see a world where you, building and exploring, strong and fulfilled, will understand. Black Power. Comrade Daniel says, Nyah, you make me want to be a dad. Okay, like for real. Just so you. All right, y'all. So we are at chapter 21, which is the the official last chapter of the book. And this chapter was exciting for me, you know, just reading it. And this is another hashtag. This whole chapter is a hashtag read that back, you know. And I'm sure if you've read chapter 21, I'm sure you got those family members who be having them dreams about them numbers, you know, fish in the water, you know, all of that kind of stuff like that. And, you know, I think this chapter was so exciting for us to read because so many of us, you know what this is about. And it was so great. So I'm going to read chapter 21 for us real quick. So it says, my grandmother came all the way from North Carolina. She came to tell me about her dream. My grandmother had been dreaming all her life, and the dreams have come true. My grandmother dreams of people passing and babies being born and people being free, but it's never specific. Red birds sitting on fences, rainbows at sunset, conversations with people long gone. My grandmother's dreams have always come when they were needed and have always meant what we needed them to mean. She dreamed my mother would be a school teacher, my aunt would go to law school, and during the hard times, she dreamed that good times were coming. She told us what we needed to be told and made us believe it like nobody else could have. She did her part. The rest was up to us. We had to make it real. Dreams and reality are opposites. Action synthesizes them. That's a hashtag read that part and read that back in a hashtag read that back. I was extremely pleased that she had come. Her air was confident and victorious. The rest of the family prompted her to tell me her dream, You're coming home soon, my grandmother told me, catching my eyes and staring down into them. I don't know when it will be, but you're coming home. You're getting out of here. It won't be long, though. It will be much less time than you've already been here. Excited, I asked her to tell me about her dream. We were all talking. I noticed a conspiratorial tone. I dreamed we were in our old house in Jamaica. I don't know if you remember that house or not. I assured her that I did. I dreamed that I was dressing you, she said, putting your clothes on. Dressing me, I repeated. Yes, dressing you. Fear ran up and down my back. Was I little or grown? You were grown up in my dream. I felt slightly sick. Maybe my grandmother dreamt about my death. Maybe she dreamt that I was killed while trying to escape. Why else would she be dressing me if I wasn't dead? My grandmother caught my drift of thought. No, you're alright. You're alive. It's just as plain as the nose on your face. You're coming home. I know what I'm talking about. Now don't ask me to explain it anymore because I can't. I just know you're going to come home and that you're going to be all right. I drilled her for more details. Some she gave me and some she didn't. Finally, after I asked 1,000 questions, my grandmother let all the authority show in her voice. I know it will happen because I dreamt it. You're getting out of this place and I know it. That's all there is to it. My grandmother sat looking at me. There was a kind of smile on her face I can't describe. I'm getting goosebumps reading this. I knew she was serious. My grandmother's dreams were notorious. Her dreams came true. All her life, her uncanny senses had been like radar, picking up and identifying all kinds of things that we don't even see. My family and I just sat there vibing on each other, talking and laughing, bringing up old memories and telling funny stories. Calmness rolled down my back like thick honey. When I got back to my cell, I thought about it all. No amount of scientific, rational thinking could diminish the high that I felt. A tingly, giddy excitement had caught hold of me, I had gotten drunk off my family's arrogant, carefree optimism. I literally danced in my cell singing, "Feet don't fail me now." I sang the feet part real low, so I guess the guards must have thought I was bugging out, stumping around my cage singing, "Feet, feet." You can't win a race by running, my mother told me when I was little. You have to talk to yourself. Huh? I had asked. You have to talk to yourself when you're running and tell yourself you can win. It had become a habit of sorts. Anytime I am faced with something difficult or almost impossible, I chant. Over the years, I had developed different kinds of chants, but I always fall back on the old one. I can, yes I can. I called my grandparents a day or two before I escaped. I wanted to hear their voices one last time before I went. I was feeling kind of mush, and so, as not to sound suspicious, I told them I wanted to hear some more about the family's history, tracing the ties back to slavery. All too soon it was time to hang up. Your grandmother wants to say something else to you, my grandfather told me. I love you, my grandmother said. We don't want you to get used to that place, do you hear? Don't you let yourself get used to it. No, grandmommy, I won't. Every day out in the streets now, I remind myself that black people in America are oppressed. It is necessary that I do that. People get used to anything. The less you think about your oppression, the more your tolerance for it grows. After a while, people just think oppression is the normal state of things. But to become free, you have to be acutely aware of being a slave. Woo! Black power. Wait, I want to read the poem too, but this.
Let's read it.
This was lit. Oh my gosh, this was lit. So it says, the tradition. Carry it on now. Carry it on. Carry it on now. Carry it on. Carry on the tradition. There were black people since the childhood of time who carried it on. In Ghana, in Mali, in Timbuktu, we carried on. Carried on the tradition. We hid in the bushes when slave masters came holding spears, and when the moment was ripe, leapt out and lanced the lifeblood of would-be masters. We carried it on. On slave ships, hurling ourselves into oceans, slitting the throats of our captors. We took their whips and the ships. Blood flowed in the Atlantic, and it wasn't all ours. Carry it on. Fed Missy arsenic apple pies, stole the axes from the shed, went and chopped off master's head. We ran, we fought. We organized a railroad underground. We carried it on. In newspapers, in meetings, in arguments, and street fights, we carried it on. In tales told to children, in chants, in cantatas, cantatas. In poems and blues songs and saxophone screams, we carry it on. In classrooms, in churches, in courtrooms, in prisons, we carried it on. On soapboxes and picket lines, welfare lines, unemployment lines, our lives on the line, we carried it on. In sit-ins and pray-ins and march-ins and die-ins, we carried it on. On cold Missouri midnights, pitting shotguns against lynch mobs. On burning Brooklyn streets, pitting rocks against rifles, we carried it on. Against water holes and bulldogs, against nightsticks and bullets, against takes and tear gas, needles and nooses, bombs and birth control, motherfucker, we carried it on. Woo! In Selma, in San Juan, Mozambique, Mississippi, in Brazil, and in Boston, we carried it on. Through the lies and the sellouts, the mistakes and the madness, through pain and hunger and frustration, we carried it on. Carried on the tradition. Carried on a strong tradition. Carried on a proud tradition. Carried a black tradition. Carry it on. Pass it down to the children. Pass it down. Carry it on. Carry it on now. Carry it on to freedom. Black power.
Black power. I just, it's just so powerful, and I don't know why anybody would want to disassociate themselves from being an African. we are literally the strongest people on this planet, and everybody that we've just, when she was talking about hurling ourselves into the oceans and slitting the throats of our captors, like when you read about I think it was the Igbo who, oh my God, it's just so powerful, and I just get choked up when I read about it, because it's like we have survived and carried on those legacies in each one of us. And you know, whether you're aware of it or not, acutely aware of it or just somewhat aware of it, that lives in you. Even if you just a coon sellout ass nigga, you may have to dig it the fuck back out, but it's there. It's there.
It's there.
It's in your veins.
It's there.
And it's just so powerful.
But just going back really quickly, two things that stood out to me, you know, where Comrade Assata says that, you know, she told us what we needed to be told and made us believe it like nobody else could have. She did her part. The rest was up to us. We had to make it real. Dreams and reality are opposites. Action synthesizes them.
Yes.
And you know, us, you know, sharing in this excitement Comrade Assata felt, you know, as her grandma delivered this news, you know, even as we're all experiencing, you know, this feeling of, you know, of unity and of wanting to go out into the streets and just organize and organize and organize, you know, we have to recognize that it's just a feeling. It's just a feeling, you know, right now for this moment. But what matters is after this live goes off, after we close this book, and we are faced with the harsh ass motherfucking reality that any of us viewing this right now, me or Nyah, can walk out in these streets and get shot down and nobody even blink an eye. That is the reality that we have to fight against. And our dream, our aspirations is freedom, is liberation for African and colonized people.
Everywhere.
And you know, you take that feeling, you take the giddiness and, you know, even the excitement that you may be feeling right now at this moment, the anger, the sadness, the grief, and you have to take it and you put it into the work. You formulate it into your actions to make sure that you're doing everything to forward the liberation for African people.
And that last sentence.
Yes.
Every day, I'll just say it's necessary that I do that. People get used to anything. The less you think about your oppression, the more your tolerance grows. After a while, people just think oppression is the normal state of things. But to become free, you have to be acutely aware of being a slave. And you know, a lot of people are like, well, I'm not a slave. I'm my own person and everything. But that's how you know that you are so indoctrinated to think that the society that you live in, that you're forced to have to work in unsafe work conditions, that, you know, you have an acutely higher risk of your children being fed directly into the prison system. I could go on, but for you to just know that your oppression is there does not mean that you are a lesser person. It means that you are aware of what's going on. You are aware of the system, the attack, the war that's been waged on your people, on colonized people all over the planet, and that you want to destroy that inhumane system that exists. That was a very powerful statement, because it unfortunately it's reflective of the fact that so many of us are just we're just not aware of that there is oppression, or that we think that this is just the way things are. Even if it is, you're aware of it. What can I do? There's nothing that can be done to overturn the system. You know, they say we can do this. If you just do what the police tell you, you won't get shot, even though we know that's a lie, because we've seen it done time and time again, where they still shoot you, they still murder you. So, you know, just going along with it and just saying, well, I just do what I can, and I just live the best life I can do. Well, that's a meaningless ass life. To just see something wrong like that, and just to be like, it's just the way things are.
And I just want to say, before we move on, becoming a revolutionary was one of the best decisions that I've ever made in my life. And even just understanding that we're fighting colonialism, we're fighting imperialism, I've never felt freer, even in this moment, struggling for the liberation of my people. It's just, it's the most satisfying feeling I feel like any black person, any colonized person can ever experience. And, like Comrade Nyah says, some of us are aware, some of us aren't. And, I feel like if you are aware, some people are scared of the responsibility that comes with revolution. But you have to struggle to build that revolutionary confidence within yourself, the revolutionary confidence within the people, to know that the people have the will, have the might to overturn their oppression. And, that's a difference between being aware of your oppression, but then understanding that you have a stake in colonialism, you have a stake in oppression, as it stands right now. And we don't fucks with them.
Right.
Neo-colonialism, sellouts, bitch-ass niggas, pussies, all that good stuff. But let's read some of these comments real quick. Let's see. We have Comrade Daniel who says, hashtag Black Power, her grandma had a revolutionary heart. We have Comrade Christopher who says, hashtag read that back. You have to talk to yourself when you're running and tell yourself you can win. Page 269. Exactly. Listen. I'm with it. I do it. He says, grandmother know about the power of mantras and mind over matter. Okay. We have Comrade Valencia who says, hashtag read that back. Assata's grandmother reminded me of my grandmother. Everyone in my family always knew to listen whenever she said, I had a dream last night. I miss my grandmother so much. Black Power, Comrade Valencia. Let's see. We have Comrade Kimya who says, to be free, you have to be acutely aware of being a slave. Black Power, that's right. Black Power Chikonde. Comrade Kimya again says, carry it on to freedom. Hashtag read that back. Black Power. Black Power. So now we're on the post strip. Oh, man. I just feel like, why did it have to end? But anyway, so... yeah, she's free. So now we're in the post strip, and Comrade Assata, speaks about, making it to Cuba, and just how, basically how out of it she felt, at this point, all of these years of being in solitary confinement, and, understanding what that can do to a person. She describes, how she just suddenly felt all of the horrible shit that she had went through. And I feel like even us as, everyday regular black folks, we minimalize all of the shit that we go through just each and every single day, in order to, keep our sanity, because in order for us to feel everything that we go through, I mean, it's enough to just make you just want to just be like, and I feel, well, Comrade Assata, not that I feel, but she speaks about having that experience, and you know, just when you look back, even when you think about some of the most traumatic things that you went through, and then understanding like, damn, that was some really fucked up shit. But at that time, you know, just, you know, how resilient African people are, how resilient colonized people are, you just let that shit just, two tears in the bucket, fuck it. You know, yeah, so she speaks about, you know, being reunited with her comrades, how they helped her out a lot, you know, just helping her to get back to herself, and even how, you know, she lost some of her, you know, romanticism, you know, around revolution, and how it just made her, you know, focus on the scientific parts, and not even to say that that's necessarily a bad thing, but, you know, sometimes it can create a disconnect between you and the people, and sometimes you and your comrades, you know, if you don't have some type of, you know, show of you know, emotion. But I can understand how she got to that place.
Yeah.
All of us can understand how she got to that place. Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, that what you had just said pretty much summed it up, because I mean, she was in the prison conditions that she was forced to live in, not to mention, of course, having a child, being separated from her child, her family, and then I mean, it gets to it later in here, but like the ploys that the state would use for the communication to be tainted between her and her family. And then it turned her into the colder individual that she became. And she said that what you were talking about, she said that she was forever, like for a long time, she was the wide-eyed, romantic young revolutionary who believed that revolutionary was right around the corner, and that, you know, we're going to go out here and do this protest, and we're going to make this happen. And then you realize that even if there's a win with a protest, even if you get what you want in that instance, it's typically something that the state is like, okay, well, yeah, we'll give you that, but we're still going to do this. We're not going to stop harassing you. We're not going to stop, you know, doing what we're doing. That small win is not the battle won, or the war won, rather. And, you know, so her becoming more, I guess, wise to the fact that revolutionary is really pretty much a lifelong battle. It's going to require a scientific and strategic approach. It's not just going to be us organizing this you know, move. Yeah, it's constantly, it's ongoing. It's like you're chipping away at a wall that's been built, and you have to knock it the fuck down. And it's going to take people to do that, and an approach to do that, because then while you're trying to knock that down, you don't think they're going to try to stop you from knocking it down. Some of you are probably going to die or seriously injured doing that.
So yeah, she talks about that, and she talks about being in, you know, Havana, and, you know, the question of racism. No, excuse me. First, she talks about, you know, the whatchamacallit, oh my gosh, her describing her experience in America, you know, in terms of being an oppressed African, you know, capitalism and things of that nature, and how the people in, you know, Havana don't believe her. They don't believe her at first.
Right.
And then she, you know, she goes into, you know, she goes into Cuba, you know, just speaking about how they were able to win the revolution, you know, her being able to see the new buildings, like the new schools. She talks about the healthcare system, the school system, and, you know, just all of these things that, you know, Cuba has been able to do for itself. You know, being this, you know, this socialist government, you know, and being able to provide all of these different, you know, things for the people, you know, at free or little to no cost. And she just speaks about how it made her feel how weird, you know, it was, you know, for her to experience that. And then she goes into the question of, you know, racism, you know, existing in, you know, Cuba, and she says, you know, how she's told that, you know, racism doesn't exist, and how she even has a hard time, you know, believing that. And she even says, here she says, one of the first questions on my mind of blacks from the States when they come to Cuba is whether or not racism exists. I was certainly no exception. I had read a little about the history of black people in Cuba and knew that it was very different from the history of black people in the States. Cuban racism had not been as violent or as institutionalized as U.S. racism in the tradition of the two races, blacks and whites, fighting together for liberation, first from colonization and later from dictatorship, was much stronger in Cuba. So there's already this whole different dynamic, you know, Comrade Assata is experiencing, you know, here in Cuba. But what she does, and then later on it says that racism is, she says that she's told that racism is illegal in Cuba. But I have a hard time, you know, picturing in my mind how you police that, like.
Yeah, I don't know that you could, because I mean, when I think of something like a virus, like imperialism, I think it has affected literally pretty much. There's no untouched place on the globe where it hasn't affected it to some degree. So people there it may seem as though it doesn't exist because you know, people do have access to, everybody may have access to health care, and everybody has access to food, and there virtually may not be any homelessness on the streets and things of that sort. So while it's not a economic system or a social system that works for everybody, imperialism is still a global viral system that affects every bit of the planet. And she talks about that later where there's a story, I'm trying to see where it is, but there's a story where she talks about somebody who wanted to get married to somebody.
Yeah. Where it was this white Cuban, you know, who fought in one of these revolutionary wars, and I believe it was in Angola. And he won all these awards, you know, he was declared to be a hero and all this other type of shit like that. But he came back home to the news that his daughter wanted to marry a black Cuban, and he basically lost it. Like, he went crazy, and eventually the daughter did end up marrying the black Cuban, and you know, the man that was telling Assata this story was saying how he was in love with his grandchildren, and how every time this white Cuban would see this man, he would apologize, you know, for acting out, you know, as it was. And you know, that's why, you know, a lot of people may question, you know, why we don't allow white people to join Black Hammer, you know, or how we just, you know, say that white people can only, you know, pay reparations to this organization. And that, even in as simple as this type of well, it's not that simple because it alludes to something more deeper. But that's just one of the reasons why, you know, white people can have no types of leadership when it comes to the liberation of black and colonized people. They just can't do it. They cannot do it at all. And it's not a question of a white person's morality or what they feel is good inside their hearts and things like that of that nature, but it's based on material reality that this white person might be able to say Black Lives Matter and all this other type of shit like that, but let a relative want to, you know, be with an African, or let a African person break into their home. You think that African person won't get shot? You think they won't have problems with, you know, their white daughter, you know, marrying a African man? It's not possible. And I wanted to backtrack real quick, you know, because speaking of imperialism, you know, how I feel like Comrade Assata speaks to, you know, she speaks to, well, first, I'm going to just say directly what she says. Too many people in the U.S. support death and destruction without being aware of it. And, you know, she talks about how she goes to this party and she's being introduced by, you know, this hostess, this man who's from El Salvador. And she reaches out to shake his hand, but she doesn't realize that his arm is missing. And she goes to tell us that, you know, hold on, what did she say? I'm being introduced at a party. The hostess tells me that a man is from El Salvador. I hold out my hand to shake his. A few seconds too late, I realize he's missing an arm. He asks me what country I'm from. I'm so upset and ashamed I'm almost shaking. Yo soy de los Estados Unidos, pero no soy Yankee, I tell him. A friend of mine taught me that phrase. Every time someone asked me where I was from, I cringed. I hated to tell people I was from the U.S. I would have preferred to say I was New African, except that hardly anyone would have understood what that meant. When I read about death squads in El Salvador or the bombings of hospitals in Nicaragua, I felt like screaming. Too many people in the U.S. support death and destruction without being aware of it. Mm-hmm. And that is so true. When you, and not only is it true, but it's just so heart-wrenching when you see Africans, you know, going out, you know, buying all this red, white, and blue, you know, wearing the American flag and all of these different things like that. Not only is it a contradiction of us supporting, you know, these proxy wars, you know, supporting the U.S. military that, you know, goes into these indigenous countries, murders the indigenous people so the U.S. can steal their resources. Mm-hmm. Not only are we're supporting that, but I feel like we almost look like clowns because these same colors, the same flag that we represent so proudly, that we have all of this belief in, is the same flag, the same colors that is killing us and oppressing us.
Everywhere, yes.
Everywhere. And it's, you know, yeah. So, my hashtag read that back part for the post strip is the race question. Excuse me, y'all, that Comrade Assata, you know, she speaks about, you know, the whole race question in Cuba. And it's on page 271, and it says, the whole race question in Cuba was even more confusing to me because of all the categories of race were different. In the first place, most white Cubans wouldn't even be considered white in the U.S. They would be considered Latinos. I was shocked to learn that a lot of Cubans who looked black to me didn't consider themselves black. They called themselves mulattoes, colorados, chaboas, and a whole bunch of other names. It seemed to me that anyone who wasn't jet black was considered a mulatto. The first time someone called me a mulatta, I was so insulted that I had been able to express myself. I was so insulted that if I had been able to express myself in Spanish, we would have had a heated argument right there on the spot. Yo no soy una mulata. Yo no soy una mujer negra y orgullosa. Soy una mujer negra. I would tell people as soon as I learned a little Spanish, I'm not a mulatto, but a black woman, and I'm proud to be black. Some people understood where I was coming from, but others thought I was too hung up on the race question. To them, mulatto was just a color like red, green, or black, blue. But to me, it represented a historical relationship. All of my associations with the word mulatto were negative. It represented slavery, slave owners raping black women. It represented a privileged caste educated in European values and culture. In some Caribbean countries, it represented the middle level of a hierarchical.
That's it. Hierarchical.
Three caste system. The caste that acted as a buffer class between the white rulers and the black masses. And when I my first understanding of what a mulatto came when I was in high school. No, I wasn't in high school. I was in college, and we watched the movie Birth of a Nation. And I'm sure many of us have you seen Birth of a Nation? It's this old racist white. I'm talking about maybe when they even just first started making movies. Like, it was no words, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was like subtitles where they had white people in blackface, and it was basically based on this black man who raped this white woman, and how the KKK, basically killed all of these black people for raping this white woman. I believe it was President Roosevelt who showed this movie at the motherfucking White House and had the nerve to say that the motherfucking movie was so true. Like, it was goddamn, it put lightning on the lightning truth or some other type of shit like that. But that was my first understanding of what a mulatto was. Basically, as Comrade Assata says, the white slave master raping, these African women, and then you have a mulatto, which is this supposedly this mixed child or something else of that nature. And I just, I really appreciate Comrade Assata for this stance, because I believe, like, when she's describing, like, all of these different categories of race and all this other type of bullshit like that, it calls into question, our identities as African people, our identity as a nation, and the contradictions that, having all of these different Afro-Latinos, African-American, Jamaican, Haitian, all of this other type of shit, all of these different identities that makes it harder for us to, unite as a people and see that Africans captives here in America are no different than the Africans captive in Haiti. And then to exasperate the motherfucking contradiction, you have stupid ass organizations like American Descendants of Slavery that only motherfucking deepen this contradiction, and even have the nerve to say that we have to address the unique lineage and heritage of American. What the fuck what sense does that even make? How in the hell can my lineage be different, my heritage be different from Africans who might have been dropped off on a slave ship in the Caribbean? How is my experience different from that African? It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It is bullshit. And we understand that, the revolution can't only happen here in America. The revolution has to happen in America. It has to happen wherever African people are located. And I feel like, in some instances, this is a part of the contradiction that we see here with the Africans in Cuba, who can think that they're, mulattoes and things of that nature, because they may have achieved, socialism and things of that nature. But what does that mean in the interconnectedness of other Africans located in different places?
Right.
And if they feel at some point they have achieved some instance of freedom, there's no need for them to want to fight and struggle with the Africans here in America, because shit, they got free healthcare and free schools and all of that other kind of stuff like that. So why does it make sense for us to support a revolution in America? And that therein lies the problem. That is the problem.
Yeah, and there was a few things I wanted to mention when you were talking about all that, but I totally unite with your summation of that. The only conclusion I could come to is because, they've achieved what they've achieved in Cuba, but just like a lot of people would say that, well, Haitians, they won their revolution, so that they're fine, and it's like, no, you can't stop. And even then, isn't that the nation that still has to pay reparations to the French? And so that's not a real revolution. And if you have, I think it was Martin Luther King that said an injustice anywhere is a threat to an injustice anywhere. I'm not able to come up with it, but basically, if there's injustice anywhere, it's a threat to injustice anywhere else. And so we have to. You can't stop there at just because you achieve a socialist government in one part of the world, and you can't stop there because there will still be oppression and colonialism and imperialism happening everywhere else. The other thing I wanted to mention was that with the history with the term mulatto, and especially what it means to us in the U.S., and there are many similarities that in other parts of the world as well, because otherwise you wouldn't be having dark complected girls trying to bleach their skin in certain parts of the US. It happens here, it happens in the Caribbean, it happens in parts of Africa. And I was actually talking to somebody from Jamaica who was telling me about it. He was mentioning how I think they call the term he said they use is you have people that want to be considered brownins. And he was like, somebody like your complexion, they actually want that because it comes along with this status where you're gonna marry a man with money. You're gonna be, and it's like, okay, so that system of wanting to marry up and thinking that, so that's a class, that's something you're trying to that term would create in the first place. And that's why me being an African who has lived in the U.S., that's what that term means to me as well, because it's attached to classism, and it's attached to a separation from certain things, or a certain assumption made about these people versus those people. And so, it's great, I guess, in Cuba that they don't have that, I guess, that quote unquote problem there necessarily, or at least not in the same regard that we may have it in the US, but it does have a real meaning because of what it had come to mean here and what it's come to mean pretty much in all these other countries where colonialism is rampant. It's attached to a classism even within the black community. We know what that means.
Yeah. Black Power, y'all. So let's read some of these comments real quick. Black Power Ghazi, are you still on? We have Comrade Christopher who says, I had to watch Eyes of the Rainbow, a documentary film with Assata Shakur, again to hear Assata's voice. Conrad Valencia says, it was wonderful to hear her voice. Black Power Karina. We have Yatunde Kime, Black Power. We have Comrade Caro who says, no soy una mulata, soy una mujer negra. Black, I'm not sure what that meant. But,
I think that's what you just read.
Okay. He also says, black knowledge, black wisdom, black power. Black power, Conrad. We have Tehran who says, we never had to watch that, but I watched it on my own for research purposes. Movie is trash. Damn right. Comrade Valencia says, I saw a part of A Birth of a Nation and couldn't finish it. It's horrible. Yes, terrible. Caro says, NAACP also, definitely. There is no difference. Stockholm Syndrome, artificial intelligence. We have Comrade Erica who says, yes, thank you for bringing in how these contradictions are still being played out in the ADOS versus everybody dynamic. Child, I wrote an upcoming article for the Black Hammer newsletter. Y'all make sure y'all read that article, okay? On ADOS.
Can't wait.
But, I wish it was longer. The only comments that I have is that I wish me and Comrade Nyah was talking about this earlier before we went live, but you know, even thinking about it now, I think for security reasons, Comrade Assata really didn't lay out exactly how her escape went. And of course we can understand why, but it just really, it really would have been wonderful, you know, if we could have heard, you know, about how she got out of that bitch.
I really would have liked to have known that, and I guess if we ever find ourselves in a situation, we'll probably learn it.
Yes.
Because we gonna get out too.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, hold on. Comrade Assata says, scroll up for my hashtag, read that back. Let's see. Where you at, Comrade Kenya? Okay, here it is. She says, come on now. Hashtag read that back. We could never afford to forget the lessons we had learned COINTELPRO.
Yep.
As far as I was concerned, building a sense of national consciousness was one of the most important tasks that lay ahead of us. So relevant to our revolutionary fight today.
Black power.
Especially when you have bullshit ass organizations like African descendants of sellouts.
That's exactly what the fuck they are too.
African descendants of sellouts. Okay? But this was great. We love you, Comrade Assata. We love you, love you. Black power. So, our next book. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for the next book? Y'all ready? Let's see some hearts. Let's see some likes. If you're ready for the announcement of the next book, let's see some hearts. Let's see some likes. Let's get it going. Let's get it going. Let's get it going. What we reading next, y'all? What we reading next? What are we reading next? I like reading about revolutionary African women. This was great. I love Comrade Assata. So y'all ready for our next book? You think they ready?
I don't think.
The next book for the revolutionary book trap is Revolutionary Suicide by Huey P. Newton. Yes, this is our next book that we're going to be reading starting as early as next Sunday. So, with that being said, if you would like the PDF version, the free PDF version, please, and I want y'all to please do this because we need y'all to participate in the Revolutionary Book Club.
That power.
You can hit us up on any of our social media platforms, which include Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. The handles for Instagram and Twitter are BlackHammerOrg, all one word, BlackHammerOrg. And you can message us on Facebook at Black Hammer. Just hit us up on our Facebook page. Mm-hmm. Comrades Gigi and Robert, shout out to Comrades Gigi and Robert, will email you the PDF. We'll get you the free PDF so you can read along with us. I haven't read it, the Revolutionary Suicide, but I'm told that, you know, it's paramount for any revolutionary to read this book. And so, yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
I've not read it either, so I'm really excited to go through this, to analyze it, to just, because this is going to be my first real peek into the mind of Huey Newton, like from a real deep perspective. So yes. I have been wanting to read this for a long time. So I'm excited. Very, very, very excited. So now, Comrade, I keep wanting to call you Comrade Assata. That's cool.
I know. But now Comrade Nyah is going to tell you why you should join Black Hammer. So
you should join Black Hammer because of everything we discussed today. The revolution is not an easy. It's not an easy task. It's not a task for 10 people to do. It is a task for the entire African collective to carry out. And we need people to join this we need people to join this movement. This book club requires manpower, woman power. I mean, we all have to come together to make it happen. We have the social media team. We have the newsletter. We have these campaigns for our children that we are launching. We are feeding the homeless. We're cleaning up our communities, and it doesn't even stop there, because again, we know that even when we do these things, that in and of itself is not necessarily completing the revolution. But we have to, when we're doing these things, we need to get people to say, I want to join you so that I can help carry this out. If we want like self-defense, gun clubs, whatever it is that we want to carry out, it requires people to join. So it's one thing to be a social media revolutionary. It's another thing to be an actual feet on the ground revolutionary, and we need people to join this movement to do that. This stuff does not get done just because we talk about it. It's because there's action behind it. So if you are interested in joining today, I need you to put a fist in the comments, and don't be surprised when I myself hit you up to tell you what to do to join Black Hammer. So let's see some fists in the comments so I can hit some people up and tell you what to do, tell you how to join. Whatever your talent is, whatever your skill is, we can put it to use in Black Hammer. A lot of people think that, well, if I'm a nurse and I work a full-time job or even a part-time job, how would that? Because we need fucking healthcare to heal our people. That's how. We need everything that you see in the colonial setup are things really that we would need in the revolutionary setup. We need clinics and hospitals. We're gonna need we need attorneys that know how to navigate through the laws that we have to adhere to right now, because we need people that care about our people. Just like Assata had, attorneys that actually tried to help her fight this system. So we need every bit of the professionalism and the professions that you see in everyday society today. We need that to build the revolution. So let me see some fists. I need to see some fists. And if you come back to this video later, you watching the playback, you put a fist up, just know I'm gonna contact you. But we need to get people into this movement.
Black Power. Comrade, and I believe this is Comrade Gigi, who says, like this comment if you would like the PDF for our next book club edition, Revolutionary Suicide by Huey P. Newton. Black Power. And even if you would like more information about Black Hammer, just to understand, what this organization is about, you're more than welcome to join us every Tuesday. And if you hit Comrade Nyah up, or if you comment with your black fist about wanting more information about the organization, you can actually come on to our mass calls. You can come on to our mass calls to listen to the work that is being done, and ask questions. And we understand that it's a struggle for African people to survive each and every single day.
Right.
And we know that most of us can't, devote, our full time to revolution, because you can't. And we could even speak to how white power has designed it to be that way. So African people are continuously having to find different ways to to survive, so we cannot come together and cohesively struggle, the way we should. But even if it's just an hour, 2 hours that you can devote out of your week, as a member of Black Hammer, we will take it. We will take it. And, just like Comrade Nyah says, these different campaigns, feeding the homeless, the different events and things of that nature does not immediately equal revolution. But we understand that revolution is a process. And in order to gravitate our people to that process, you have to plant the seeds and allow people to see those wins, to see you out there organizing, to understand that revolution is not some abstract idea that we're just talking about, that we're on live ranting and raving about. it's a material force that we can bring into reality to make it happen. So our membership starts at as low as $5 a month, and even if you can't be a member, you can support. You can donate on a monthly basis to sustain the organization and go on about your day knowing that you're supporting an organization that is struggling not only for your freedom but for the freedom of all Black and colonized people. So we want to provide all means, all ways for our people to participate in the revolution, in the liberation of our people. So go to blackhammer.org, read up on the organization. Again, join us Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hit Nyah up or comment in the comment section. We can get you the call-in number and everything else of that nature. So next week, we start Revolutionary Suicide by Comrade Huey P. Newton. So make sure you get your free PDF version because we start with chapters 1 through 3 is what we will be reviewing next time. So make sure that you have your y'all know how it goes. Have your hashtag read that back part prepared so we can comment, have a discussion, and just have a good time. We understand that political education is serious, but you can also make it pleasant. You can make it enjoyable. You can make it fun.
Absolutely.
And that's what the Revolutionary Book Club is all about. So, Black Power, y'all.
Black
Until
Power.
next time.